Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports Show for November 29th. How is everyone doing? My name is Eric and I am the man behind Etoft21sports. You can find my work on Twitter at Etoft21, on Instagram and TikTok at Etoft21sports. We have a phenomenal show planned for you today. As always, the Etoft21sports Show is sponsored by our friends over at Pointsbets. Looking for a dependable sports book? Go over to Pointsbets, download the Pointsbets app. For your first initial deposit, you can get up to a 100% deposit match up to $2,000 using promo code ETOFT21. That's ETOFT21. On today's show, my boy Brandon, aka at Boston Boy 83. If he looks familiar, that's because he was here every week during the NASCAR season, handing out NASCAR winners. He's coming on. Him and I are going to look back at week 12 of the NFL and tell you what bets to lock in for week 13. I have a juicy 11-1 future I'm absolutely loving. And my boy Gino, who hit a phenomenal 4-1 winner at Fairgrounds last week. He's back. He's got a bet for you tomorrow at Tampa Bay Downs. Let's see what Gino's got a cooking.
Let's talk this week's horse racing best bet. We'll go to Tampa Bay Downs for Wednesday. Let's go to race number 6. We'll be traveling a mile and 16th on the turf course, 16,000 non-winners of 3. I thought there were a couple horses to look at in here, but the one that jumped out to me was the 6, Tap'em. Last time out, Tap'em was in a much tougher race at the Meadowlands on October the 21st in a race that came up on a good turf course against First Level Allowance Company. Tap'em just sort of packed it in early, was 70-1 in that race against much tougher. 2 starts back at Delaware was in a race that was taken off the turf. If we go 3 starts back to that Delaware race against the optional 25s, that is a race that would really stack up very well with this group. Tap'em, 5-1 on the morning line. If we can get anything around 7-2, we'll make a win wager there on the number 6, Tap'em. We'll be here each and every week with you, dishing out a best bet for Eric. Make sure to give this show a subscribe and to follow Eric for all the best information in sports each and every week. And whenever you need any help with the races, head to Daily Racing Form, drf.com, for the past performances. Good luck. Tampa Bay Downs Wednesday, race 6, the number 6, Tap'em.
Guys and girls, make sure you to lock in that tomorrow at Tampa Bay Downs. Gino knows his stuff. I am on Gino's podcast every single week, talking NFL or NBA. Now let's shift our attention over to the NFL and let's bring on the man, the myth, the legend. I'm sure he is hot because his boys, I'll say it, and I was on the Vikings. His boys got screwed last week up in Minnesota. Let's bring him on at Boston Boy 83, my man Brandon. Brandon, how you doing today, my man?
Doing good, man. Wasn't expecting to start with the remembering of Thanksgiving night, which I was really salty about, but you take the calls as they fall and you move on to the next week, and then you realize you play another Thursday against the Bills. So might be a rough back-to-back weeks for me, not gonna lie.
For those just tuning in, this is how this segment works. Brandon and I are going to be talking about 3 things. We'll each have one that happened last week and telling you 3 bets that locked in. Obviously, we talked a little bit before the show. He wanted to talk about one of the calls I'm referring to, the Hunter Henry call, the non-touchdown. Shed some light on that, my man.
I was just a little confused because once he scored, of course, it was reviewed immediately, and every time they bring in an NFL reporter, the guy in the booth that talks about the review, and they bring him in that little corner block, he immediately said, after both announcers were like, looks like a good catch, hand under the ball, way to secure it, all this. The review guy immediately was like, no catch, didn't maintain control. And it was just shocking that when you zoom in on it, for anybody that thinks it touched the ground, it's like, oh, he's a homer. Google it. Look at the zoomed in. His hand and all fingers are laying under the football. I don't know, Eric. We've talked about it for years. When we finally learn what a catch is, when review works consistently, why things get overturned like that. I mean, I don't know what your feelings were on it. I'm shocked that we're so far into technology and we still can't get these calls right, regardless of what team it is.
Well, someone that bet the Vikings, I loved it. But here's my issue with it. And you kind of hit the nail on the head. With the way technology is, this has to be better. We saw in the USFL, they put a tracker on the ball. So you can tell like when it went out of bounds, where the mark is and everything. With how much money the NFL makes, there is absolutely zero excuse why that they don't have that. It absolutely doesn't make sense to me. And I agree with you 100%. You should not be losing a bet because of officials. And I'll say it, and I'll be the first to say it because I made money betting the Vikings. I got lucky. Your boys got screwed.
Yeah, and I guess where I'm so confused is you have all these cameras, these videos, these replays, slow motion, and it takes a fan sitting at home zooming in on their TV screen to snip a clear picture that your hand is fully under the football, but with all this technology, they can't figure that out on the field. Like that's where call me butthurt, call me a homer, Pats suck, Brady's no longer there. People can say whatever they want. I don't care. But when it's clear evidence, and I know as a Pats fan, we've got many calls, a Tuck rule. Like I know we've gotten the calls before, but we're in 2022 and they still can't get calls right in the NFL. And we've seen it throughout this year already with calls. Roughing the passer, missed roughing the passer. Like there's been a lot, and I'm still just trying to figure out why the NFL can't handle this. I don't know.
I mean, the Vikings, Bobby hits the nail on the head. They are a bluff.
Yeah.
And it's like the roughing the passers. That's another thing that kind of gets to me because we saw it like what is one, what's not. There's been times where Justin Fields has got absolutely destroyed. And then we see Grady Jarrett just make a tackle on Tom Brady and he gets called for roughing the passer. So I just don't know.
And I won't beat a dead horse because me and you talked about it before. Yes, go blue. Everybody knows my first team is the U, not even bowl eligible, but I love me some Michigan, love what they're doing. Matthew, go big blue. I love it. But you can't land on the quarterback. So what are these guys doing? They're grabbing them and slinging them to not land on them. I mean, I don't know. I don't even want to get back into that. I really don't. It's frustrating.
Let's move on to my takeaway. And
did that big blue bother you? You seemed a little.
You know what? I'm not a Michigan guy. I'm just not. I'll say it. I'm just
okay.
I like Michigan State. I'm team Michigan State. You know,
that's fine. Hey, everybody's do have their own team.
They won. I'm happy for Matt. You know, he's a huge Michigan fan. Great guy. I'm happy for him. But I just don't like the team, man. You know, I'm just not a big guy. But I am fired about my first takeaway. Sean Taylor, as a kid, was one of my favorite players. This guy was an absolute beast. This is the 15th year anniversary of when he was tragically shot at his home during a home invasion. And the Washington Commanders announced that they're going to have a statue of him. In my head of heads, I had a statue of him making a tackle, going up for an interception. And this is what the Washington Commanders did. This is a jersey on a mannequin from JCPenney's. That's what this is. This is an utter embarrassment. Where do I start with this? Number one, it's a Nike jersey. When he played in the league, it was a Reebok product. So they have a Nike jersey there. Why? Nike jersey there, they're going to try to sell the product. Okay? I absolutely hate that. Making money off of his death. Absolutely hate it. Should be a Reebok jersey. That's number one. Number two, now I don't know. I'm sorry I know this, and the World Cup is going on right now. Those are soccer cleats. Those are not even football cleats. Those are soccer cleats that they have on them. And when Taylor played, he wore a white shoe with a burgundy toe. And you're telling me you can't get that? You're telling me this is your memorial statue? This is embarrassing. This is a mannequin in a pro shop. And we all knew with the stuff that's coming out with Schneider, how piss poor they were. This is embarrassing. This is absolutely embarrassing. It shows how bad of an organization this is. And Taylor's family deserves better than this. This is an embarrassment. I am disgusted even looking at it, so I'm going to bring it down. But That was just a horse shit move by the Commanders. And I wish their fans would just boycott them. They need a new ownership there, and they need a new ownership fast.
For a guy that works for a company that does a lot of casework, a lot of college interiors, a couple sports venues, it is embarrassing. And the fact that it looked like they dropped more money on the surround and the LED lighting and the glass casing or acrylic casing, whatever it is around it, rather than the statue itself, is a disgrace. I grew up loving the guy, being a Miami fan, watched him, going to the NFL. I didn't care what team he went to. I was going to follow him. And for him to be tragically shot in his own home in the 15th anniversary or year, I don't even like to call it anniversary, year of his death, you get that? That's what you release? It's pitiful. And to your point, though, it's not even a mannequin. It's a half-ass mannequin. You'd almost – it wouldn't fix it, but you'd almost be better with an actual mannequin rather than a stick figure mannequin that they produced. I love how you were able to call out the jersey, the soccer cleats. That was something that I didn't originally see until you told me about it. But that's even more of a disgrace. Like, you're taking a dude that was a legend that is not with us anymore and putting him up on a platform and unveiling it with like a tarp around it as if this is about to be some amazing statue. And being a Boston fan, I look at Bobby Orr in the statue outside the TD Garden. Like, this is not a statue. It's a stick figure with a jersey and soccer cleats on it. And that's it.
It's awful. It is absolutely awful. And I'm going to pull this up. I may get flagged. You know what? I'll take a copyright hit. I don't care. This is what they should have put up. I mean, just watch this.
Brian Mormon is going to fake it on the run, and he's going to come up short. Oh!
I mean, that is what they should have paid. When I think of Sean Taylor, that is what I think. Just no holds barred, balls to the wall, hard-nosed football player, left this planet way too soon. And that's what it's just embarrassing. And I am just getting more fed up the more I talk about it. So I'm done talking about it. Brandon, talking point number 2. Go to it, my man.
Talking point number 2. Hold on here. Let me pull this up. I made some notes for you. You'd be impressed.
You know me. I love the notes, man.
You do. You caught me off guard with that. That hit me in a different way. Talking point number 2 is going to touch a little bit on your next takeaway. You know what? Your next takeaway is going to be better than mine. Why don't you talk about Arthur Smith for a minute?
All right. So this is my thing. Those who don't know, on my pre-show, when we did the division futures, I have the Atlanta Falcons 25-1 to win the AFC South. I was high on this team, and Arthur Smith cost them the game, and he probably cost them the AFC South against the Washington Commanders. 2nd and goal, you have one of the best rushing attacks, if not the best rushing attack in the league. Commanders struggling to stop the run, and you pass the ball on 2nd down with the Commanders having no timeouts, and there's 50 seconds on the clock. Why? That makes zero sense to me. Even if you score, you're giving them 45 seconds to work. Why not run the ball? If you get in, great. If you don't get in, work the clock down. 3rd down, you can run play action. 4th down, you can pass it. With that good of a rushing attack and how you're moving the ball, and you have the ball at the 4, you cannot drop back to pass with Marcus Mariota. But
do you expect anything different from the Atlanta Falcons?
I mean,
if there is a team in the NFL that can blow leads and blow games and just find a way to completely
I'll say that with the amount, with the lack of talent they have, and the fact they're actually battling for a playoff spot, tells me how good Arthur Smith is. But this is the first time in his tenure with the Falcons that I absolutely hated what he did. And he cost them that game. And with the Bucs struggling, the Saints struggling, the Panthers struggling, that was their game where they could have won it, get a little bit of breathing room, a little bit, tie the Bucs, and they blew it. And I really think that's going to be the game when we look back at the season that's going to cost them the South and cost me that 25-1 future. I absolutely hate the play call. You have to run the ball, especially when they're moving it at ease. That's just doesn't even make sense to me. I mean, even just do a play action pass there. It just was a pure drop back. I hated the play call. Absolutely disgusted by it. Brandon, second takeaway. What you got, dude?
So my second takeaway, when you think of elite quarterbacks, I won't even say just elite, but elite quarterback, very good quarterback. 2 years ago, you put Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, maybe even sprinkle Matt Ryan in there. Are we finally seeing the year that all your elite, forget the age, just talented quarterbacks are just dropping off the face of the earth? Tom Brady, 281-0 when leading 7+ points with 2 minutes left, loses an OT against the Browns. Russell Wilson can't even get out of his own way. Aaron Rodgers, I know he's hurt, but can't perform. And I don't want to hear about the talent around you, because back in the day, the argument with those guys were they make the talent around them. They didn't need a Julio Jones. They didn't need these guys. They built the talent around them. They're going to different teams, and they're not performing anymore. I mean, when's the last time, if you looked at a game that Tom Brady was up 7+7 against the Browns, no matter what team he played for, it would be like, man, they might lose this game. If it goes into overtime, they don't have a chance. Like, we're actually talking scenarios that never existed in our heads for years.
Yeah, I really think Father Time has caught up with Aaron Rodgers. He's definitely can't do what he used to do. Plus, he's kind of a shitty person, and that kind of hurts the team as is. I think with them, and also with even Tampa Bay this year, their defenses haven't been that good. I think that's a big red flag to them. I think one of the things that the Patriots really did well with Brady, even during his heyday, is they made sure that he had an elite offensive line, just because he's not the most mobile. The Bucs offensive line this year isn't that good, and I think that's part of the struggle with him.
And when I'm not even just talking age. Yeah. You look at the Ravens right now. Can you trust them in a lot of games?
No. As someone that has a 24-1 future on them, no. I can't.
So that's what I'm saying.
Keep on blowing double-digit leads. I mean, like, honestly, like, what are the quarterbacks that you trust? And Reed is right. Bulls clock management in that game was abysmal.
Quarterbacks that I trust, like right now, it's so hard to even pinpoint anybody. I mean, you're watching teams just blow leads, and I don't know. I've talked about it for years, and it's funny because you can do it in Madden, the video game. But all these teams with leads, even double-digit leads, they're going straight to prevent defense. Yep. What does prevent defense always allow? Chunk yardage. It might not allow a touchdown, but it allows chunk yardage in a short period of time. You get into the red zone, it's a whole new ball game. Why these defensive coordinators aren't sticking to exactly what they've done to get the double-digit lead and stop these other teams? It's, hey, let's go to prevent D. Prevent. No deep ball. Where you're allowing 30 chunk plays, and now a team's in the red zone and scoring. It took a minute off the clock. So, I don't know. That was one of my takeaways, because I find it weird that you can't trust Lamar Jackson right now. You can't trust Aaron Rodgers. You can't trust Tom Brady. Like, you can't trust any of these elite quarterbacks right now, except maybe Mahomes. And Josh Allen's looking suspect. They're pulling off wins, don't get me wrong. And I'm a huge Josh Allen fan. I hate to say that as a Pats fan, but the man can move the ball. So, yeah, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, Jackson. Yeah. So Jackson, I'm a little iffy right now, Reed, just the way it's been going, and you can blame it on the defense. That's fine. But and Allen and Mahomes are my two that I could say that I could trust to pull it off. But it's weird to sit here and say, to have Wilson, Rodgers, and Brady all in the same conversation of not being able to trust in the fourth quarter.
You want to get blown away? Guess what Herbert's ATS is for the second half?
14.
12, 29, and 2. That's 29.3% ROI.
That's unbelievable.
Isn't that mind-boggling? It is absolutely mind-boggling that he's that bad ATS. Matt chimes in, what's wrong with the Broncos? Team is a hot mess. I think you have a coach that has never been a head coach before, never called plays before, and we see how good Seattle's offense looks, we need to remember he refused to have that Shane Weldon offense run, and he did what he wanted to do. We see. So my thing is Wilson. I think Wilson's the issue. Bad coach and no Javonte Williams.
All right, so I want to piggyback you. It's kind of off subject, but I mean, you can call it another takeaway if you want. What the hell's wrong with the Raiders? Do you strictly blame Josh McDaniels? I know they just pulled off a W, but do you blame Josh?
Here's my thing with the Raiders. Their defense is a train wreck. They have no one that can stop. There's this thing called the Pythagorean win total, where it basically looks at it looks at points scored versus points against. And generally speaking, like most teams are below 1. Okay. If they're over 1, they're usually due for a little regression. You look at the Raiders last year, the Pythagorean win total, it was almost 3. So they were due for mass regression with everything that was going their way. An example is USC. You look at USC this year in football. USC is plus 18 in turnover margin. They're getting every single bounce. I think that was the Raiders last year. They just got everything to go their way, and it was just kind of a perfect year. Now they're coming back to the norm.
Even though the defense is just trash, I was expecting this team to average at least 21 points a game.
Well,
the way that offense is built, it's there. They have so much talent, and they can't.
I also think that Carr, I was watching a game of his last year, and he's doing a lot of pre-snap reads, a lot of looking over the field more. Now it's just he just goes. He's not processing the field. He's just doing what McDaniel is saying. I think that's hurting as well too.
All right.
My third takeaway kind of goes on what you were saying. A lot of people are saying we saw Aaron Rodgers' last game in Green Bay and they need to play Jordan Love and see what he has. And I'm not disagreeing with that. But my thing is this. He's going to be on the team next year.
Yeah.
He has a $99 million cap hit of dead money if he's not on the roster because they cut him or trade him. You cannot field a team if you have $99 million in dead money. It just doesn't work that way. So it's definitely going to be one more year of Aaron Rodgers before they go on from him and see what Jordan Love has.
And to your point, before we get into our bets, to your point, that $99 million cap hit, some people are going to say, well, you can trade him. You can, but you're not going to find another team to eat remotely even close to half that cap or all that cap. Because
even if they trade him, they still have $99 million in dead money.
So I sound stupid when I say this. So how you can't eat somebody's contract, you can't eat the cap hit?
No. If you have like a cap hit, you have $99 million in dead money. Now, if he retires, it's a different story. But if they cut him or trade him, that's there.
Do you think they could force him into retirement?
No. Why would he?
Why would he come back? Why would he play another year? He's gone downhill. Like, why?
What motivates people more than anything, my friend?
Money.
Okay, so look at according to spottrack.com, I'm pulling it up right now. He gets $12 million next year. 12 million. After next year, they can get rid of him. Okay. Potential out. They have a potential out in 2024. So after next year, they can get rid of him. But my thing is because the dead cap would only be $24 million. So they can get rid of him after 2024. 2023, I mean, he's getting a base salary of $1 million, signing bonus of 12, an option of 14. I mean, he's getting $31 million. How are you going to walk away from $31 million?
Yeah, you're not.
You know what I mean? Like, even if he's there, he's still going to be there. He's not going to walk away from $39 million. I think he's got one more year, even though his contract's to 2026. I don't think he makes it that far. And you're right. I mean, you're looking at this 2024, $40 million, 2025, $59 million, 2026, $53 million. Who's going to want to pay that? They're just going to cut him at the end of the 2023 season.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Now, everyone's favorite part, let's go into bets. Brandon, what is your first bet of the NFL weekend, my friend?
New England money line Thursday. No, I'm just kidding. Not doing that.
Homer.
No, not kidding. So after I really don't like this team because we got robbed, I really like the Vikings -3 at home against the Jets. The Jets have put together a good start. I mean, let's call it what it is. As of right now, they're in a wild card. The AFC East could fill in all the wild card spots. We don't know this yet, but I like Minnesota at home against a Jets team that I feel just can't fully get their stuff together. And they've had their up and ups. And now, come on, Bobby. As a betting man, you can't not touch the Vikings -3 against the Jets. Eric, correct me if I'm wrong. Steer me in a different direction. The viewers in a different direction. But I'll take minus a field goal at home against the Jets.
I'm not going to do anything. I want. This is my thing. The Vikings are. I think the Vikings are a bluff.
They are a bluff. Yes,
they're winning a lot of games. Jets defense is legit. You have Mike White playing quarterback. Their offense is a nightmare. You don't know what Michael Carter got an ankle injury. Is this rookie Knight that looked great? Is he going to be able to continue that? How's Michael White going to look on the road? There's just a lot of questions. If I had to bet the game, I would probably bet the Vikings at this number. But for me, this game's just a pure and utter pass. Right. But I'm rooting for you, man. I'm rooting for you.
No, you good. You good. What do you got for your first bet? Everybody wants to hear it. What do you got?
Saints +4. Tom Brady has struggled against the Saints since coming to the Bucs. He's 1-4 ATS with his lone cover being in the game earlier this year. The Saints should have won and should have covered that game. Against Dennis Allen defenses, Brady is averaging 245 yards passing a game and is throwing an INT in every game but one. And in those games, the Bucs are only averaging 14.6 points per game. And in 2 of those games, they actually failed to score a touchdown. Flip side, Saints were actually in that game with the 49ers. And if you just look at the score, that is very misleading. They missed a field goal. They were inside the 49ers 6-yard line twice, failed to score both times. So that score is a little bit more misleading. Looking at Brady's time with the Bucs, he's not covering it as a short favorite as well. When at home as a 4-point favorite or less with the Bucs, he is a robust 16% ATS. The Bucs are middle of the road defending the run this season, so I feel the Saints will be able to have an advantage running the ball with Kamara. Jarvis Landry is coming back. What does that do? That means that the lead DB of opposing teams is going to focus on him, allow Chris Olave to focus on the second DB on opposing teams. Bucs are 22nd DVOA defending wide receiver 2s. So that is Chris Olave. I think he's going to have a huge game. I like the Saints to cover the number, cover the 4, and to straight up win. And also, are you ready to get blown away? Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm sitting down.
If you think the Saints are going to win, you have to play the Saints at which I did at plus 1,100 to win to win the NFC South. They only have one game against a winning team. Then they have the Panthers, Browns, Bucks, and Falcons. They've already beaten the Falcons once, so they own the tiebreaker. If they beat the Bucks here, they could get a little separation in that gap. They'd be tied with them. I think if you think they're going to win like I do, you have to play the Saints plus the 1,100 to win the South, as well as the +4 this week.
All right. So if you can throw up that last comment, see Spear. Giants +2.5 at home versus Commanders. Commanders overvalued. I would want to say yes to that because I feel the Giants with their injuries are just, they started off hot. Everything was looking good. And now all of a sudden they're in a downfall. Immediately, I'd like to grab the Giants +2.5 at home. But what do you feel about that game?
I want a 3.
You want it at 3?
I like
You
it.
buy that half a point and take plus
No.
3.
I never buy a half a point. And the reason why I don't buy a half a point is if you buy the half a point, that is skewed your break-even point. Break-even point for betting is about 52.4%. If I buy that up to 120, that's going to make that higher. Gambling's hard, man. Gambling's not easy, dude. Like I don't mean to sound like a conceited brat, but I think I'm pretty good at this stuff. And I put a lot of effing time in this shit. And I'm at 58% overall in the NFL this year. So I mean, it's tough. And if you raise those numbers a lot, it's hard, man. It's hard out here, man.
I had to throw that comment in there from C Spear. I had to. We will go into my next pick, and it's already moved 1.5 points within the last 2 hours. I am taking the Chargers over the Raiders that we just talked about on why they can't win, -1.5. With their defense being so damn bad, I see Herbert tearing that defense apart and easily winning that game by way more than -1.5.
I love Herbert. I love the Chargers. Chargers need to get it going. Chargers got a tough little schedule remaining.
They do. And just with you being the numbers guy, I am not the numbers guy, people. I see it as I do. I call it last minute, like stuff like that. You are a numbers guy. Why in the world is that spread -1.5? Is it strictly because of the comeback the Raiders just had to where Vegas is like, ooh, this team could go back?
Well, you got to think of it like this. Who's the leading rusher in the NFL? Josh Jacobs. What can't the Chargers do?
Stop the run.
Stop the run. So
it's fine, but you know that's going to eat up clock, period.
Yeah.
And you know the Chargers don't take much time off the clock. They go down and score.
Yeah.
So the Raiders defense is going to be on the field for 70% of the game solely because Jacobs will run the ball. It will eat up clock. But then as soon as it's just I see that spread way too low right now. Way too low.
This one's interesting for me. And it's this, dude. Like I have certain rules when it comes to betting. And one of the rules is, and I'm not disagreeing with you, okay?
Even if you do, we're good. We know how this goes.
One of my rules is I never lay points on the road. I just don't do it. The only sport when I look at is NBA where I'd lay points on the road. College basketball, I never do it. NFL, never do it. College football, I never do it. Just one of my rules. I may miss out on money, but it's just something I never do. And I really feel to be a successful sports bettor, you have to have rules. And that's just one of my rules.
Okay. I won't knock that because you are successful at it, so I won't knock it. But I find that spread, if it was 3.5, I'd be like, okay, I don't want to touch this. But 1.5 with a high-powered offense against a horrible, horrible defense.
Well, another thing is it was 5.5 during the beginning of the season. And I think this opened up at 2. You get 3 points for being at home.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's another thing. It's short home dog. I don't trust the Raiders, and I'll be honest, I just don't trust the Chargers. This team is vastly underachieved. I know they have a lot of injuries and everything, but this team is vastly underachieved. And I have a phenomenal future on them. I think I'm at 24-1 to win it all, so I hope they can get in. The AFC, I think AFC playoff hunt is a little tight, and I'm a little
very, very tight.
What's
your final pick?
No, I got 2 more, man. You got 1 more. I got 2 more.
You got 2 more.
Second bet, Titans plus the 5.5. The strength of the Titans defense is their rushing defense. They are first DVOA defending the run, giving up only 84.5 yards per game. Eagles, what do they like to do? They like to run the ball. Titans have only had one player break 100 yards against them rushing. That was Saquon Barkley all the way back in week 1, and that was basically one long run. I think the Titans DL, namely Jeffrey Simmons, is going to be able to get home, limit the Eagles' rushing attack. Also, the Eagles, they have some injuries that are starting to mount up that people aren't realizing. Dallas Goedert, the tight end, losing him really affects the passing game. And they lost Garner Johnson, who's their starting safety, who leads the NFL in interceptions. He left the game against the Packers with a rib injury. I think that hurts their overall defense. Plus, we've seen it without Jordan Davis there, the rookie defensive lineman. Teams are averaging 5 yards a carry. What do the Titans like to do? They like to run the ball. And look at dude, C Spear chimed in again. Anyone that knows me knows I love taking this guy as a gog. Vrabel.
Yes.
Vrabel as a
myth, the legend
is a 60% ATS. Getting 3 points or more. Are you ready for this? He is 69% ATS. I'm not saying they're going to win the game, but I'm saying anything over 3 is way too much for the Eagles to be laying, especially with the issues they have. Look, give me the Titans plus the 5.5. I absolutely love this bet. I would play it actually all the way down to 3.5.
All right. So I know I said you can't really rely on him this year earlier. I know I said he can be suspect at times, but I don't ever like betting anything that's more than a touchdown spread, but I like the Ravens -8 against the Broncos, who are 3-8 against the spread this season, who just got beat by the Panthers, the city that I live in, where all sports are atrocious.
Sammy Darnold just lighting them up.
I am huge on the Ravens -8 against the Broncos. Russell Wilson can't even get in the end zone, period. So I have no actual numbers to go by. Like I told you guys, the man on the left side of the screen clearly is the numbers guy. But I like the Ravens -8 against the Broncos at the Ravens. Don't think Wilson stands a chance. Can't get that offense moving. Something's wrong. I don't know if he got his money, his contract, chilling at home with his wife, Sierra. I don't know what it is, but the man cannot throw a TD pass this entire season. Like, it's bad. So Ravens -8. You heard it here first.
I mean, you're right. They're 3-7, 30% ATS this year. On the road, they're only 2-4. As dogs, they're 3-2. God, they are 0-5 this year as favorites. 0-5 this year as favorites. My third and final bet. I am going.
Hey, real quick, you guys know Eric must kind of like that bet I did because he didn't say anything about that bet. But carry on. What?
You know what? I was trying to be polite to my guest.
Okay.
NAA86, are the 49ers going to blow out the Dolphins this week? No, they are not.
Yeah, we can't agree to shit tonight.
I understand that Armstead went down for the Dolphins, and that's a big blow for their offensive line. But I'm looking at the 49ers secondary, and I don't think they are going to be able to stop Waddle and Hale. The weakness of the defense is the back four. They don't have the speed or the man-to-man coverage skills to keep up with these two. I know the Niners are 10th DVOA in passing defense, but let's just look at these teams and tell me where's the vaunted passing attack they've played. Saints, Cardinals, Chargers. Chargers are only 21st DVOA in passing this year. Rams, Chiefs, 1 DVOA. Falcons, Panthers, Rams again, Broncos, Seahawks. Seahawks are 4th DVOA in passing, but this was the second game of the year where they really didn't have that offense going in stride. Bears, 28th DVOA. So they played 3 against 3 teams in the top 13. Falcons, 13th DVOA, they lost. I'm not counting the Seahawks game because that was the second game of the year when they weren't doing their offense. And then against the Chiefs, Mahomes threw for 417, and they could not cover the speed. McCole Hardman was running all over the place. If you're not fast enough to keep up with McCole Hardman, how are you going to be able to keep up with Hill and Waddle? I don't think they're going to be able to it. I think Tua is going to be able to take advantage of this defense. Shanahan, 36% ATS as a home favorite, laying more than a field goal. He's 37% ATS. Now, I'll admit it. I'm not a Tua guy. I've never have been a Tua guy. But he is doing a good job of covering as a dog. He is 69. And you know what? My boy, Wizzo45, he gives me shit all the time for hating on Tua. And I told him, I was like, dude, I'm going to say something positive about Tua. He is 69% ATS as a dog. And I'm going to be backing Tua this weekend. Give me the Dolphins plus the 4. I think they are going to honestly straight up win the game. You look at the game against the Saints. Saints were inside the 6-yard line twice against the 49ers defense. And yes, that did hurt me so much to say something positive about Tua and to bet Tua. That really hurt when I hit submitted.
I have no clue who Wizzo is, but I like him a lot. Based off of the crap he's given you in those 2 comments, Wizzo, thank you. Thank you.
He's a good guy.
Somebody
real
has to give Eric
real good guy.
Talk, some sort of back talk. I'm trying to watch my language. Something. And Wizzo's doing it tonight, so I like it.
He was my neighbor during the lockdown, and I think 75% of the time during the lockdown, we were drinking a beer, arguing about Tua.
That's hilarious.
So, yeah, Brandon, thanks for coming on today, man. Appreciate you. Brandon's been actually killing it in NHL. And for those who didn't know, Brandon came on the podcast that comes out every Friday. He handed out an insane 5 NASCAR winners in a row. And yes, we've been debating Tua for like 3 years now. He handed out an insane 5 winners in a row. He's been killing NHL. So starting this week, he's going to actually be coming on the podcast and he's going to be giving out some NHL plays. Last time he was out, I think he gave out a parlay that was like 7-1 or something.
Yeah.
So he's going to be giving out some parlays, some straight bets, a whole 9 yards. So make sure to tune into the podcast this Friday. Brandon, thanks for coming on. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media?
Boston Boy 83, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and I can't wait for Friday. Hitting on 80% of player props right now. Like 10 for 12 in my last 12 player props. Hit another 5-team parlay last night in hockey. Had the football game mixed in with it, so it is what it is. But I'm going to keep rolling this hot streak. And, I know you're a Detroit guy, but I'm rolling a hot streak just like these boys are. 13-0 at home. Best record ever at home in the NHL at the start of season. 19-3 overall. Firing on all cylinders. And I know I have to rub this in just a tad bit more. The Celtics 9-1 at home, leading the NBA 17-4 right now. It's all early for both sports, but I'm going to ride this high while I can right now because NBA and NHL, the boys are rolling. I had to end with that. I had to.
You know what? And I'll show you respect. We won't talk about your head coach from last year for the Celtics.
Thank you. I don't even remember who it was, so no.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Next week, same time. Biho from BTV is going to be next week's special guest, so make sure to check that out. Until next week, boys and girls.